Okay, so these questions 4, 5, and 6 are putting the definition of midpoints into an application for line segments or lines, okay? So what does midpoint really mean? It means it's the middle of a given line, okay? So middle means that they're equivalent on either side of the midpoint, okay? So let's look at number 4. And we're really talking about that figure down below, the QPR with line in. Okay, so P is the midpoint of XY. Oh, excuse me, this is not the same thing. That's for number 6. Whoops. Alright, but keep that in mind. It's kind of like P is the middle, and on either side, they're going to be equal. Okay? So, 4. If P is the midpoint of XY, XP is 8x minus 2, and PY is 12x minus 30. Find the value of x. Okay, so we have x, y, and P is the midpoint. Okay, so that means on either side of P, they're equivalent. So XP is equal to PY. They are the same because P is a midpoint. Alright, so let's start with that. XP equals PY. Okay, well, we're going to find the value of x. And so what's given to us is that XP is 8x minus 2. So we'll plug that expression in there. And then what's also given to us is that PY is 12x minus 30. So we'll plug that in for PY. Okay, and they're equal to each other, so we'll set them equal and solve. Alright, so let me zoom in there. Alright, let's substitute first. So XP is 8x minus 2, and PY is 12x minus 30. Okay, and when we're solving equations, you want to move your x's to one side. I usually pick the bigger side. So 12 is bigger than 8. I'm going to move my x's to the 12 side, and that way I don't deal with negatives as much. Which is it's a really helpful habit for when you get into inequalities, which we will. Okay, so, sorry, that's not a divide. I don't want to confuse you. There we go. So I'm just moving them to the bigger side. Alright, negative 2 equals 4x minus 30. Alright, now solve for x. Add 30. So 28 equals 4x divided by 4. 7 equals x. Okay? And now before I circle that, I want to read the question one more time because it may not tell you to find x. However, this one does. So we're done. Okay, and as a matter of fact, number 5 does not ask you to find x. So when you're done with 5, you have to read the question again. It says to find FH. Okay, so let's draw a little diagram above. If G is the midpoint of FH, then G is in the middle, okay? And then on either side they're equal. These two, if you have the same marks on either side, that means they're equal. So I'm giving them 2 marks. That means FG equals GH. Okay? And so now let's substitute in their expression, and we'll solve for x. Okay, and then we'll find FH. Alright, so FG is 14x plus 25, and GH is 73 minus 2x. Okay, so let's solve for x, and I'm going to move them to the bigger side, like I said. So 14 is bigger than negative 2, so I will move the x's to the 14 side. Okay, you absolutely don't have to do that. You're just going to end up with a negative at the end, which is fine. Okay, so I'm here, and then I'm going to subtract 25. Okay, hold on. Should be 48. Okay, so 12x equals 48, and I double checked just to be sure, because I would hate for you to subtract wrong and get everything else right. Okay, so x equals 4. I don't mind if you use your calculator. Matter of fact, I prefer it if you really don't know how to subtract in your head. Okay, so x equals 4, and I should not have circled that because that was not our question. Our question was to find FH, which is actually this entire segment. Okay, so now that we know that x is 4, let's go back to our expressions. So FG was 14x plus 25. If x is 4, let's just talk about FG for now. 14 times 4 plus 25 will give us how much FG is. Okay, that'll give us the length. So 14 times 4 plus 25. Okay, you can just plug that right in your calculator. 81. Okay, so I know that FG is 81. Without having to plug in for x, for GH, what should that also be? Should be 81, because that's what a midpoint is. Alright, so when we're finding FH, the whole thing, it's going to be FG plus GH, so that's 81 plus 81, which is 162. Okay, and that is FG, or FH, excuse me. That's our answer. So don't just stop at X. If you said 4, that would be wrong, and I guarantee you if that was multiple choice, that would be a trick answer. Alright, so last one for your notes and last one on the page. Alright, we are now using that diagram to the left. If line N bisects QR, find QP. Okay, now this is another word, bisect. That basically means it's cutting the line segment in half. Okay, so essentially P would be the midpoint, because N bisects QR at P. And when you bisect, which we'll talk more about, you're really splitting in half, okay? So QP is going to equal PR. And it wants you to find QP, okay? So we just want to find that one side. Alright, so QP is going to be equal to PR because it was bisected, or because P is the midpoint, however you want to think of that. So let's plug in those expressions. 3x plus 5 equals 5x minus 19. And let's solve for x. Ooh. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do this this way. I just naturally went to subtract 5x. And I didn't choose the bigger coefficient side to move the x's, so just so you can see what happens. So if I do that, or if you do that, we should get negative 2x plus 5 equals negative 19, okay? And you can see that you are going to have to divide by a negative at the end, okay? So that's kind of why I choose to move my x's to the bigger side. Because anytime I don't have to deal with negatives, looks a little bit easier to me. Okay, but it's up to you. So negative 24 is on the right, and dividing by negative 2, x equals 12. Okay, And then our question, let me zoom back out to see, was to find QP. Alright, so QP is 3x plus 5 right here. Alright, so let's do our final answer. 3x plus 5 is QP. And let's plug in 12 for x. So that would be 3 times 12 plus 5. That gives me 41. Okay, and we have no units here. If they said like inches or centimeters, we could put that, but 41 is good for this. Or you can say 41 units. Okay, that's it for your third lesson.